Yeah, I come from me in the stand. I'm in the field and you just sit in the stands. Take that bass out your voice. If you ain't got no gun in your hand, I do what I want. And you don't even do what you can, you do what you told. I got no love for my foes. They can mimic my delivery and copy my prose. But what they can't comprehend is how I stick to this code. It's either in you or not. It's not the kicks and the clothes. They ain't cut from the same cloth. Can't come from the same loom. Fit in similar shapes or even sit in the same room. Confusing authenticity with part of the costume. I'm teaching gifted children. You can't come in this classroom.
Dare to struggle, dare to win.
Yo, welcome back to Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win. This is episode 14. It's your brother Yusef, Bunchy, Shakur. No, I'm joking. I'm Geechee, y'all, and here with Cherie. And in place of Yusef, Bunchy, Shakur, our comrade, Zane. What up? How you feeling?
Good. How are you guys?
What up, Zane?
What's up? What's up?
Zane in the building, shorty.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
So all of us in Atlanta, I think. Yep, sure. Yep.
Oh.
And Atlanta has been some bipolar weather today, like cold with a hot ass sun and then still kind of cold.
Oh, it's kind of cold. It was really windy yesterday. I rode my bike a little bit and that wind was just like hitting me so hard. I'm like, is this Atlanta or Chicago? Like, make up your mind. Like, Unnecessary.
Wow, shit.
Oh,
Listen, people in the chat, people who rewatching, we want to welcome y'all to Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win, where we bring you radical Black politics from CMB's vantage point. Again, we all in Atlanta. Zane is filling in for Yusef this week. And we love being here on Black Liberation Media Network with all the other comrades and the dope shows. And we know that most people in this chat is politicized to a T, radical, militant, ready for the shit. But if you do me a favor, copy the link and make sure you share it to some other people who need a better or more stronger radical analysis. We got some good conversations coming up in terms of worker struggle and how weak maybe our labor unions are. But, you know, we're going to get into some shit. So definitely tap in and share that link.
Not Orlando Brown. Y'all are wild in this chat. I do. I mean, y'all could be cousins. I see it. I see Orlando Brown. When he was younger, the dude from That's So Raven, Family Man, he crazy now.
Oh.
But when he was healthy, y'all could have been cousins.
Nah.
No, okay. But speaking, I'm like offense maybe. But speaking of offensive things, we're gonna do a little light bill on this Zulu parade in New Orleans. There's been a lot of backlash on TikTok that's brought up another diaspora war. And I just wanted to light bill with you guys over. I don't know if Geechee wanted to play the link that I put, but yeah, it's from TikTok. But
okay. All right, cue it up. All right, here we go.
Oh, you got okay.
Here we go.
Of the Zulu parade in New Orleans, a tradition which dates back to between 1909 and 1916. The tradition seems to be based on a skit or comedy which a man called John L. Motea saw, and which inspired him to create and organize a carnival.
But yeah, we don't have to watch the whole thing. I guess I just wanted to get like the you guys see a picture of like the parade and stuff. Basically it's like a parade, and they kind of have like exaggerated kind of African wear, and really kind of it looks like the Lion King almost. Oh, did we lose Zane? It looks like Lion King almost, and then we have sorry, my bad. Then we have like they're doing blackface and stuff, so it's kind of sparked a bit of outrage. I'm guessing it was probably a connection issue. But we can keep talking. But yeah, it sparks some outrage, and yeah, it's kind of brought up another diaspora. I don't know if you wanted to play the other clip, but basically a lot of people in that are actually Zulu are really offended by the blackface and kind of the mockery that they feel like Africans in America are making of their culture. And it's basically an old parade that's been around for over 100 years. So for them, it's like just tradition. But even me, that's not from New Orleans, looking at it, I'm like, I could see why the Zulu people are offended, man. I mean, you got blackface, you got the Lion King type stuff. Like that's not really Zulu culture. But yeah. So now we have a lot of backlash, and now a few Africans on the continent are making fun of some things that we may be known for in the States. So.
Well, I mean, I think as we diaspora rewards and anti-African rhetoric either way is goofy. Mm-hmm. But if you are a comedian like you are, you do know that there are some jokes that are important and kind of funny and telling. And I think this person, at least a couple punchlines in here, it's funny as hell to me. So I'm gonna play this real quick.
My name's Shakisha, yo, and I'm a businesswoman. I got 4 businesses. I sell lashes, I sell hair, I sell nails, and I'm an exotic dancer.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
What? Told my baby daddy in jail.
Oh my gosh. So they did that one, and then they also did one where she was dressed up kind of like an enslaved person, talking about picking cotton. And I think I think her intention was more like to kind of be like, well, how does it make you feel when somebody's like, kind of like for back of it, like making kind of like a farce or whatever out of your actual culture in a sense. And yeah, so it kind of, I think with that, it just made things kind of a point that she was trying to make. I could see, I can see on both sides how, it's not cool to disrespect, each other's history and stuff, but it's, but then you have even more people, Africans in America here that are being like saying even more mean things. So they're like, well, at least we have clean water. At least we have, this, like being just really anti-African. And it's just like, it's crazy. And I don't know. I think that's why I understand, Geechee, why you don't have TikTok, because I have to delete it like every other week because the stuff I see on there as a Pan-African person, it breaks my heart because I'm like, how can you say this about like your brother and sister? And like, I don't get it. But yeah, it's a lot for me. Oh, we got Dave back. But yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to. We just showed the 2 clips of what's happening with the Zulu parade, and then kind of the person on the continent that's kind of showing you guys how do you like how it feels. So we just want to know what your take was.
Yeah, sorry about that. Camera decided to glitch. But yeah, I looking at that video, I was just like, how are we supposed to come together? Like, I feel like Big Brother is like, I don't need to do anything. Y'all got it. Like, y'all can just keep separating yourselves from each other. And it's just like, how are we supposed to, like, I don't know, become a collective and fight the actual
Enemy.
like, I don't know. It's like irritating and disappointing,
Yeah.
It's like, are we children? Like, can we grow up and like move on? I don't know.
Yeah, I think what would help, I think if here in America, the people in New Orleans, even though it's a tradition, I feel like traditions can always be updated. Just because something is a tradition doesn't mean it has to stay the exact way, or doesn't mean it makes it inherently right. Like, I understand, I believe the parade started because there was some anti-blackness, or there was some, Black people can't have a parade here in New Orleans, and that's where it started. So I understand why that can mean a lot to the people of New Orleans heritage, but at the same time, I don't see why you can't just pause and think, well, these are the people that we're trying to somewhat honor and show like allegiance to, and they take offense to it. Like, is there any way we can update it, make it, a little bit more modern? Like, I don't understand why you can't just if the whole thing is to honor people on the continent, like, why not just take that feedback and be like, okay, this is what we can do, or this is how. But instead, you have a lot of people in New Orleans. It's like, this is how we do it. That's how, and they're going on with them thick New Orleans accents and everything, being like, this is how we do it, baby, and all that stuff. And so I'm just like, dang.
So Monty asks, have any of them spoken to those who participate in it and the actual history? Like, how much have you looked into it?
Like I said, I'm just finding out about it, but like I said, I've saw other creators, make different TikToks about it that are, in New Orleans and about the history. So I get what it means, but my whole thing with that is just because it means something, it does have this history. Does that mean that it can't be like modernized to be still like a little, less? And I just wonder if there's a way we can meet each other so it doesn't have to be like, well, we think this and we think that, and now you have the other side making fun of our stuff, and then it's becoming even more anti-African. Like I said, they were making fun of her not having water, making fun of her not having air. It's like it's all these digging into all the African stereotypes and stuff. But even if that's so, that's not something that you dig at, but that is something that I see that's really popular amongst more of like the ADOS FBA type people, where they really take shots out at people on the continent, being like, oh, well, you can't get this, or you didn't overcome this, or like, and I never encountered that until this year, and it really does just like bother me, because I'm like, how can you talk to like your people like that? Like, I don't know.
It is jarring. Yeah.
I guess for me, it's like I said, I think I haven't heard anything about it until a couple hours ago when you said we're gonna do it on Light Bill. But if I came in watching that, like, I would be like, well, they got a point about this black business shit. Like, I got 4 businesses. No, you got 4 hobbies. Like, then again, I don't know the larger context of what's being argued, but Chinimatra says it was started at a time when the Zulu were still fighting the colonizers and getting so much press. This is so face palm. It looked like I can't see what that emoji is, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a face palm. Yeah, so that's what I heard from it. But I think blackface does rub a lot of people the wrong way. Like even if it's a black person doing it, I just think it's 2025. Like blackface, it's just hard for me to be like, well, it's a rich history or it's a deep reasoning. It's still blackface. So
You're still participating in colonizer activity. Like,
yeah, I
why
think
would
it's
you do that?
perfectly fine. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, I'm just like, it's perfectly fine without the blackface part. Like, I think a change of the blackface and maybe an update on the costuming, since we have more things to reference than like a Lion King production to, signify African clothing, So I just think, I don't know, but yeah, that was what I just wanted to bring up, but because it's troubling for me. But the thing is, you're right. Like when you're not on TikTok, you don't see these things. But when you are on TikTok, you see these things, and you're just like, oh my gosh, how are we gonna unite? Like what Zane was saying.
Yeah.
Y'all can have TikTok, y'all can have Twitter, and I'm about to give y'all back Instagram too. Somebody tell me like Facebook is for old people. I'm like, what the fuck you mean? It should work for me.
you old, Geechee.
Ageism and shit.
My mama on there. I had to.
Well, I asked you, but I ain't asked you if your mama on Facebook. That don't help my case at all. My mama on Facebook too.
And they in their 70s, so I just feel like I had to slowly stop posting as much as every day. She was like, "Why would you say that on Facebook?" So then I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna just put all my ratchet stuff on my Instagram." Then she got Instagram, started watching my stories.
Your mama politicized. So you gotta watch the politics. You gotta be careful. Listen, we episode 14. We're gonna switch it up today. So we're gonna start with the chapter update. See, we got Ipsy coming through, and then we'll get the body of the conversation after that. But in a second, we will transition into bringing our comrade up all the way from up there in Ypsi. But yeah, anything else on the what? So is it a blackface parade? Because I did see a clip of somebody spraying down somebody who was dressed in all colored in black, but I don't be knowing what that shit is. I just zooming past. So
I think I also heard that sometimes people that aren't even black are doing it as well. But I don't know if that was just something I heard. From what I saw, I only saw black people that were doing the blackface. But but then I also heard that, because even if it's not intentionally a blackface thing, if it's a white person that's like, I want to participate and then coloring themselves black, I'm still like, I don't think that's for me, bro. I can't get past,
Well, it looks like we're gonna owe this a more, especially I guess as it develops a more thorough conversation. Chinimatra said there's so much cultural context about New Orleans at large that's missing. Can't even explain it in the chat, not to defend, but to put it in context of the larger carnival activities that are year long.
Got you.
That's a fact. So look, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a quick break and we're gonna bring our comrade up from Ypsi and get into some updates and see what they got going on. So stick tuned and we will be right back.
I'm throwing copper at the coppers, but I'm shaking like Morocco. Say my prayers with the pistol, serve the sinners with the chopper. All my buddies got it from scratch. My house had Betty Crocker. His mama owned D. He ain't even get no shot up. Profit is invisible. Profit come from product. He thinking buffet. He can't comprehend no potluck. God bless the child with his own powder to rock.
Peace, y'all. Can you hear me?
Hey.
Oh, okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, how's everybody?
Good. Doing well. Cherie, you supposed to do the welcome back.
Welcome back. Sorry. I forget the roles. We're a little different this time. We got a different host. It's just everything look different. But she's representing Ypsi today out there in Michigan, right? Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, let us know what is happening. What are the main things that your chapter is getting into right now?
So right now we're working on certain things around community outreach. So we kind of focus on making community learnings around the things that we are kind of familiar with. So we have like a Reiki practitioner, we have a doula, and I do acupuncture. So we have different like community learnings on what these are. So the community can start to understand like holistic wellness and like things that keep Africans safe in the community versus, you know, more Western medicine. We're also trying to expand these by linking up with some other political organizations in the city, kind of like with similar mindsets or like shared interests. For example, the Ypsilani Tenant Union and also like Ypsilani Pullover Prevention. These are both political orgs or organizations that are working towards helping out the residents and keeping people safe. So like pullover prevention fixes your tail lights for free. They'll put like fluids in your car. They're like small mechanics that'll do this stuff for free. So Black and brown people aren't getting pulled over. And then the tenant unions are pretty big out here, and we're leaning towards like linking up with them because Stuart Beale is pretty big in our community, known as one of our slumlords out here. He buys up a lot of property and rents them out regardless of how condemned or unlivable they are, like quite literally turning closets into bedrooms. No ventilation, no heat in the winter, no windows, nothing. Bed bug infestations that are being reported that aren't being fixed or taken care of for our people. But it's quick to like evict you if you're not paying like the extra costs and rent on time and stuff like that.
Yeah. So quick question. I think I'm curious about your experience or y'all experience up there. So whenever I'm experiencing maybe like the holistic health and wellness crew, they don't seem to have radical politics. Maybe sometimes they even engage in escapism. So I wonder what it's like talking about Reiki and other things, but also having like the politics that y'all have. Is it welcome up there? Is it a struggle? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
It's pretty welcome. Geechee, I believe you came to my acupuncture clinic when you were in Detroit. We were taught based off of Dr. Matulu Shakur's legacy with the Panthers and the Young Lords. So to me, that's as radical as that kind of space can get, and will, you know, continue to push. We play Dope as Death for folks when they come in pretty regularly. We do time where like it's quiet and people can meditate, but we also are constantly reading like literature. We're studying with the folks that come into the circle. We're talking about, you know, the problems back then were people trying to get off heroin and other drugs. And now Detroit and Ypsi really struggle with like pollution. But Southwest Detroit has one of the worst air qualities probably in this area of the country. So we talk a lot about radical political things in that space. I personally haven't been to the Reiki clinic myself, so I'm not sure what that looks like in that space. But I also know that like with the different doula clinics and stuff, it's kind of the same. The ones I've been to are a little more passive because there's a birthing people and like they're trying to focus more on like getting their needs met in a space that is really dangerous for Black mothers to be, or Black birthing people to give birth at this time. It is Black Maternal Week, I believe, too. So it's kind of perfect timing to talk about this. But there's a lot of death of Black birthing people. So I know that they try to talk about stuff like that, but when people are coming into these clinics, they're kind of at a sensitive place because they're about to give birth, and births don't always go as planned. So trying to just navigate with the audience that we get is really the goal.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thank
So
you.
anything else that you would like to share with us about what's going on?
Yeah, we recently had like a people's garden in Ypsi that flooded because Michigan's weather is very unpredictable and sometimes we get super heavy rains. But thankfully our comrade running that was able to find a new space. So we're gonna get that up and running. Recruitment's looking really good. So thankfully there's some people who are down with gardening, getting their hands dirty. So I have a lot of faith that we'll get back up and running. So yeah, but that's about it.
I was just curious as to like what brought you into like radicalism, since as Geechee said earlier, a lot of people in kind of the Reiki and healer and holistic community can kind of like dwell in escapism. So I'm just wondering what kind of brought you more this direction, because I assume you were probably into these things before you were politicized more. So I'm just curious as what made you make that transition.
Right. Yeah, not necessarily actually. This fell into my lap. It was really aligned, but I wasn't planning on being a part of this world. I am a therapist in my real everyday life. I won't say real, my everyday life. And I've always been geared towards addiction because Ipsy has a lot of people who use drugs and who are struggling. We have a lot of people that die via opioid death that are Black, African, Latino. So seeing that has kind of politicized me because I'm like, there's so many people in the streets around where I live, around where I grew up, that are dying, that are struggling. But all the treatment centers are filled with white people. And so that was always kind of what piqued my interest in learning more about like politics and like how is this happening. It was more towards policy and like what that looks like when it comes to drugs and like keeping people safe from using, and then slowly turn to harm reduction as I'm in these like white nonprofits and in these spaces where there aren't a lot of people that look like me or where I'm from, but they're in my community receiving these services while like people die on the streets. So that's more so what kind of politicized me. And then finding acupuncture, like I said, was very aligned. I felt like my ancestors were like, oh, and here you go. Here's some more purpose behind that. So I'm grateful for that.
So go ahead. Because then you have something. Somebody was saying. Oh, so you literally talked a little bit about I guess maybe even the slumlord and the slumlords that's out there. Is it like in a particular neighborhood? Does it branch out to Detroit, or like where exactly are is this thing I guess happening rapidly in your vantage point?
The most rapidly I would say is Ypsi and some of Ann Arbor, which is a very close neighboring city. But all over Ypsi, you'll see like Stuart Beale properties all over. Like literally, a building will go up for sale, and within a month, he's owned it. He owns it now, so it's pretty rapid out there for sure.
Just trying to pull up something. Is this Stuart Beale right here?
Yeah, it's like a red. It says Beale Properties. It's like a red.
This the guy right here.
Yep.
Goddamn Stuart. What? Yeah. What? Oh, okay. Is he like blood in with the politicians or something, or?
Has to be. A lot of people are with the politicians, with the pigs. Like a lot of people are linked with people we don't want to be associated with. So
Yeah. So what in any events that y'all got coming up that people can come out to that they should tap in with?
So right now we don't have any. Our focus is elsewhere right now, but in May, the first couple weeks of May, we are planning on getting stuff back up and running. Planning on having all our clinics by the summer. We definitely are trying to mirror Sacramento. Have to give a shout out to them, all the great work that they do. Mel, Jordan, everybody else I don't know out there. Definitely inspired by them. I'm the director of community outreach as well. So I kind of like look to them with all the things. I'm like, hey, like, how are y'all doing this? So we can try to emulate it. So definitely by the summer is my goal to have like our doula clinic, our Reiki clinic and acupuncture clinic all up and running in Ypsi. So stay tuned for that stuff.
So I remember you said something about the video, but is there any books that you are reading currently or that you would share with people to kind of like, you think they should engage this book?
Not off the top of my head. There's it's not written by, it's Shir Hassan, I believe. Mm-hmm. And it's about harm reduction, a liberatory act of harm reduction or something like that, that covers harm reduction in all kind of categories, whether that be, queerness, disability, drugs. The author used to work for the National Harm Reduction Coalition out in Sacramento, San Francisco, somewhere over there. So that was the book I was most recently reading that kind of touched on it and explored it a little more, but it's not completely about the Lincoln Detox Center. It's kind of just all about harm reduction in general, which is mostly the model that I like to work off when helping people out in the streets and just my community.
Is this one right here?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I kept wanting to say we are our own liberators, but I was like, that's
Yeah.
not it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's dope. I think even I've heard maybe different arguments about harm reduction in other places, and I feel like that is a decent conversation because I don't know if you heard. I'm probably sure you did, but this argument around non-reformist reform as a pathway to like achieving revolution is kind of like your people are dying. They got dirty ass water. Like you can talk about revolution, but you also gotta get the water. So
yeah, it's hard, especially doing like drug work, especially with Africans. It's hard to like, on one hand, it's hard to convince folks that we're not enabling people to shoot dope or to smoke crack or to like use drugs. Like we're not, enabling this. We literally want our people to survive another day so they can wake up and make the decision. I want to be sober. I want to fight another day, or I want to keep using. I'm not ready yet. One of my mentors has always said, like, addiction is a symptom of the things we as Africans and, I'm half Mexican, so Latinos too, struggle with every single day in this country. Like, so trying to navigate what that looks like for people is just kind of an everyday struggle. So I take it day by day when it comes to harm reduction and talking to people about it. I love being in the community and getting the word out about like, if you're ready to stop using, I have what you need. If you're not ready to stop using, I have what you need. So I'm grateful to be around people who think the same in Ypsi and in Detroit as well. And it makes it a lot easier to do this work with a team like I have.
that's dope. Any other questions before we wrap, y'all?
I just wanted to know overall, like when it comes to like your long-term goals, like I know some of the immediate things you're trying to get done, but with the whole reading about, harm reduction, all these different things, like what are like your ideas around policy and pushing for policy, since I know that was something that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that also kind of looks different day by day, especially with what this administration is doing and like how it affects every aspect of my life personally, career-wise, ethnicity-wise. So it kind of constantly looks different right now. Like I said, getting people through day by day stuff is kind of like my focus right now. I'm not thinking too long-term goal personally. I know my chapter has long-term goals, like getting this garden up and feeding people, helping us get some like self-determination just by having food to offer and land to be on and stuff like that. So I know there are a lot of long-term goals in my orbit that I'm probably gonna help out to the best of my ability. But personally, I'm just day by day right now.
Well, thank you so much, comrade, for joining us. And by all means, anytime you need to tap in with us, and we'll see you soon. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Yeah,
absolutely. So listen, y'all, we're going to transition over and bring up our next guest. And again, as always, take a little break, make something shake. I'm joking.
I'm throwing copper at the coppers, but I'm shaking like Morocco. Say my prayers with the pistol, serve the sinners with the chopper. All my buddies got it from scratch. My house had Betty Crocker. His mama on D. He ain't even get no shot up. Profit is invisible. Profit come from product. He thinking buffet. He can't comprehend no potluck. God bless the child with his own powder to rock.
Welcome back. Dare to struggle, dare to win. Episode 14. We talking with a brother of a good brother, and wrote this beautiful, important article. Makasi, comrade, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So this is our name has gone away, but you're speaking Cherie up here at the top, and Zane, and then obviously I'm Geechee. Somebody broke our name joint, so I don't know what's going on. But listen, this article that you wrote, and I'm gonna pull it up in a second, but I would love for you to kind of lay out what were you intending to do with this article, or share or express, and then how do you hope people respond to what you've written?
Well, the purpose of the article is to show people the connection between the outrageously violent imperialist wars that are happening and the economy that you and I and average everyday U.S. citizens deal with. Because it doesn't really seem like it's connected, but for the capitalist ruling class, everyone is essentially a servant or an enemy. And so, if you're an enemy, you're going to get the explosives and the sanctions. And if you're a servant, you're going to have your labor value, your surplus value stolen. You're going to have the wealth that you've been generating for them taken from you. But they use that for something. They use that for their bonds, right? And this isn't just a sort of, you should know where the money is going, and we should feel concerned about that. Not only is our labor being used to oppress people around the world, but the plunder that comes from destroying people in the global south helps to oppress us and keep us exploited. So it's an international worker struggle. And the way I think the most important part of the article actually is that we can liberate ourselves if we organize as workers here in the US and we're willing to go on strike and to mobilize and resist here. And as a result, we're going to do a tremendous it's going to have a tremendous benefit for people around the world, and ease the pressure that they have.
So you're part of the multinational Communist Party. Could you share a little bit about the party really quickly, and then we'll get into some questions from the other two?
Yeah, so we are an organization. We're in a couple of different cities, but we also work with people remotely, and we go into workplaces and we talk to workers and we help them organize. And the idea is, if you want to be able to really improve your conditions, let alone build towards a revolutionary movement, you've got to organize at your own like point of economic interaction, your own job, right? But we don't want it to just stop there. So we have helped workers form unions and join existing unions and win NLRB elections. But we tell them from day one that, that's not really going to be enough to solve the problem, that we want to connect these workers and to connect workers together from multiple workplaces, so that when they take action against capitalism, that they can do it in a unified way. And so that's the message that we kind of that we spread, and the kind of building that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think the part of the article that stuck out to me the most was you breaking down like those numbers as far as like the let me see, looking at the actual title, the service industry and the proletariat, when you kind of break down how much value as far as that the workers are created, because oftentimes on the side of things, especially when it comes to the Black community, we're always breaking down numbers and false numbers at that when it comes to buying power and stuff like that. But to me, you broke down the real numbers and who really has the powers, which is really the workers as opposed to the consumers. So I guess I'm just curious about, because I know even earlier you just mentioned as far as what isn't going to be enough. But like, even, I'm often looking at consumers and them attempting strikes and how that isn't enough. So I guess I'm just curious as to what are your thoughts about like when it comes to consumer strikes, and like, do they hold any sort of rank? Does it have to be paired with worker strikes as well? Should we just kind of focus on deterring people away from consumer strikes and more so focusing on worker strikes? Like, I just am trying to pick your brain about that a little bit.
So if you want to mobilize the working class and, you want to build towards something really large, like a general strike, which we've had in the past, and people kind of underestimate how much organization it takes to get there, we will get there again, right? If you want to have those kinds of strikes, you will have to also have the support of people who are not on strike, who are willing to boycott businesses, right? But the reason why we hear so much about boycotts, and this isn't to undercut extremely important boycotts like the boycotts against Israel, for example, which is extremely important and people have to participate in it. But the reason why the media, particularly the capitalist press, allows so much discussion is because it convinces the working class to participate politically in a way that capitalists participate politically. So, if I'm a capitalist, what I buy and sell changes the world. What I choose not to buy changes the world. If I choose not to fund a newspaper, if I choose not to fund CNN, if I own CNN and I decided to sell it at rock bottom prices, that changes things, right? Or if I buy Twitter and run it into the ground, that changes the actual political landscape of the country. And so buying and selling, or buying and choosing not to buy, if you're a capitalist, is incredibly political. But for me, as a member of the working class, what I buy and sell is completely irrelevant, right? Because when I go to the store to buy paper towels, those paper towels have already been produced. They've been distributed. They're on their way. It has such a minimal impact on the economy. And more importantly, if I don't buy things that I need in my everyday life, I can't really get by. A capitalist can get by without owning a car company or Amazon.com or something like that. So what capitalists want to do, and what they're always trying to do, is to get us to think like them, feel like them, move like them, and hope we don't notice that we don't have the power that they have, right? So it's like, yeah, work harder, grind, or whatever. It's like, yeah, if you're trading stocks and you want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to check how the latest economic news, and you want to work till 12 and talk to someone in Japan, that's going to make you a lot of extra money. If you're a worker, you're just going to lose sleep and you're going to die a little bit earlier.
Now listen, that's called my boy. You know nothing about that.
I had to. I was going to do it earlier, but I had to. Go ahead, Zay.
No, so I was gonna ask, so how do you work with other organizations, like other communist parties, to help like facilitate, like, I guess, to try and facilitate like organizing different sectors? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So we will engage in like any kind of political forum that other organizations are putting on. So we've gone to other people's talks and we try to explain to them what we're doing, and we always ask for help with that. And likewise, most recently, right, there's been a lot of demonstrations with regards to Israel, and we always try to, or the Israeli occupation, we always try to get out to those to show our support and make those connections. And most of us have been activists for a long time, and so we know people in these organizations. What I'll say is that when it comes to directly talking to workers and teaching them how to unite, this is something that COINTELPRO in particular really work to destroy, because it's a skill. It's a very difficult skill to kind of bug somebody every day and get them to return your phone calls and to talk to their coworkers and to bring them to a meeting. it's a lot of work, and the even before, going back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s, communists who were in the unions, who were bringing that skill into the union, and then also younger communists learning that skill as union organizers, those people got purged, right? And a lot of them, if they were not, and stop me if this sounds familiar, a lot of them, if they were not born in the US, got deported for being political enemies, right? And so the skill set, it didn't get, I wouldn't say it got lost, but it was dramatically diminished. One thing one of my mentors pointed out to me is that whenever you watch a movie and you see a group of people come together to like stop some kind of, malevolent force, it's always really easy to get them together. Like they just say, hey, listen, we got to stop this. And it turns into this spontaneous thing. And it's like, no, in real life, even getting people to do common sense stuff like, don't you want to make $1 more an hour? It's like, yeah, but I hate that guy and I'm not coming to the meeting because he's there. Like that's how people act, and you got to push through that. And it's not easy. So in regards to other parties, the multinational Communist Party and all other parties have to deal with this learning curve. And so sometimes we explain that to other groups, and we encourage them to do more of what we're doing. We're always open and always talking to other organizations to collaborate.
So since Cherie stole my question, I was going to kind of pull up this buying power boycott and all the other weird shit that we have weird arguments about. But to kind of go back to that, like you talked about majority of the workers being in the service industry. So I'm curious what you think of are maybe the benefits of that as trying to organize these workers, and then maybe the obstacles being that the industrial layout of the United States is different, right? And so I wonder what are some obstacles, and also again like maybe some benefits of being able to organize workers in today's context.
So one of the clearest, I do want to start with the obstacles, because when I talk to workers, I get so many of them, and it's always the same thing. It's the high turnover rate. That's not particularly unique to the service industry. It's bad, but there were times, in the early 1900s in factories where they could have really high turnover because the work was really brutal. And then the other obstacle, and this is something that you feel whether you're in the service industry or not, is that there's a little bit more isolation in our society. So not just the idea that you don't have several hundred people working in a factory together, but people are traveling really far to get to work because it's impossibly expensive to live near where you work. And there are not places where you can kind of go to just hang out for free. And it sounds like a small thing, but it's a real disturbed way to run a society where if you want to leave your house, you should expect to spend money. You can't exist anywhere. And as an organizer, you definitely feel that. I think there are a lot of interesting, benefits are tricky. Calling them benefits are tricky because there's so much suffering that goes on. But one of the interesting things is that it brings together two very different classes or sections of the working class. So you have a lot of migrants from Latin America coming in. And then you have people who were college educated or expected to go to college and didn't because they couldn't afford it. And these were people who expected to have white collar jobs. What's interesting about them is that they're really pissed off, right? Because they don't want to be where they're at. And that's a good thing, because we can kind of explain to them that, listen, you're here and you need to figure out, instead of trying to figure out how to like get someplace better, you need to make here better, right? The interesting thing about migrant workers is that they're bringing experiences from parts of the world where that organizational skill hasn't necessarily been lost. Sometimes they actually have a lot of knowledge about organizing. What seems like a language barrier usually tends actually to be a benefit. So if you're at a place and there's a collection of workers who are Haitian, if you win over one Creole speaking worker, you can very quickly reach the rest of that segment. And one of the first things we teach our cadre is like, when you want to have like a steering committee, basically, like, let's say there's 100 people working someplace, you want 10 people kind of like meeting every week and keeping things going. You need one person from every language group. You need one person from every ethnic group. You need one person from every, LGBTQ representation, right? You need to have that, because if you don't, the capitalists will split you along those lines so quickly. But if you bring them in, they tend to pull in the rest of the group. And the people coming from other countries, Asian countries, South American countries, they do tend to be less socially broken up. They and more willing to cooperate with each other because they haven't lived in a country that really isolates you and breaks you down so much. And so we learn a lot from them. And then there's there's a lot of components, but I want to talk about, Black people in America, African Americans. The economic power of the United States has always been sort of linked to the exploitation of African Americans. So even though it's not the majority of the country, it's sort of like it's like a keystone, right? And if you pull it out, the whole thing collapses. And because of that, every really successful, I don't want to say successful, I want to say for the ruling class, every traumatic uprising has involved Black people in some way, right? The riots that happened it was a rebellion and it was an uprising after Martin Luther King died in the late 1960s. I encourage people to read the congressional reports about that, because it's a banger. Like it's like because from their perspective, it's the revolution that they almost lost. And so it reads like a war story. And when you realize that like Black Americans put the fear of God in these people, and how close they feel we came, right? That turns the whole thing around in terms of like, oh, we can't win, we can't do this or whatever. It's like, I don't know if like Elon Musk really feels like that. Like, he already lost South Africa. He's sweating, you know what I mean? But, of course the ruling class is going to play it cool. Of course they're going to act like they're immortal. But, getting a little bit off track, how deep can an IDF soldier go into Gaza? Like, how far away can they walk from an armored vehicle without just sweating? They are in their little zones, and they do not move out of those zones, because they will get, I don't know what the language restrictions are on this, but they will get messed up. And so, it's like Sun Tzu said, is that, when you're in a losing situation, you need to think about ways that you can win. And when you're in a winning situation, you need to think about ways you can lose. And you should never drop either one of those things. So right now we're catching a lot of hell, but we need to never forget about ways that this situation is actually an advantage to us.
I guess I'm just curious as far as like the current things that you're working on, like right now. And I know you mentioned them before, but like, what are some of the current projects and like end goals when it comes to organizing workers, as far as like toward a policy or something?
So before a campaign goes public, we won't talk about the specific workplace. Like, even the workers won't talk to each other about it until we've had a conversation about like the level of trust. But to get a basic of the kinds of a basic overview of the kinds of things that we're doing week to week, is it's really sitting down and having a conversation with about 3 workers at a single workplace, explaining to them Marxism, Leninism, because like that's going to keep them motivated when they get like depressed and beat down. And then just going and being like, all right, I want to have the weirdest, most in-depth, nosy-ass conversation about every single person at your job. Because we need to figure out who you work with, who's a snitch, who's going to go and run to the boss and tell them, oh, they're trying to unionize. We need to know who is like the revolutionary, but like people don't actually like them because they just talk all the time and they're just annoying. We want to know about that person who's like remembers everybody's birthday and is just like a great person. And maybe they're not that political, but if we win that person over, they're bringing like 10 people in. And we're having these conversations, and over the course of several weeks, what we'll do is we'll have these workers reach out to one after another, bring them into these meetings. And once we like to do it, we hate to lose, so we always want to have like a 70% margin. We'll file for an NLRB election, which is the National Labor Relations Board. And we do that not because we believe in the capitalist government, but because if these workers get fired for organizing, you can file a suit with the NLRB, and 2 years later, they may get some money. And that is not great, but it's better than nothing. And it's there, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to do it. So we explain to workers that they can't expect that the government's going to save them, but we don't turn away any kind of, this is food on people's plate, right? And so they'll file for the election, and then if they win the majority card signing, then they get their election. And then if they win their election, for unions generally, it's this idea of you're fighting to get a contract, and a contract is good, but for us, we're explaining to them that like our end goal is to seize the means of production. And so every time you mobilize against your boss and you force them to make a concession to you, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, something simple like, they have to post the schedule 2 weeks ahead of time. If you are a capitalist and you run a business, it is your right to schedule whenever you want to. That's your business. You own it. And if workers take that away from you, they've taken away one sliver of what you own. And so what we try to tell these workers is like, look, we're going to mobilize against these capitalists, and we're going to start cutting slivers off, and then we're going to start cutting chunks off, and eventually we're going to take the whole thing. But it takes a very large, mobilization of workers to do that. And the working class is in a weak state. Multinational Communist Party is new. Our cadre are very young, but they work really hard. I'm very proud of them. So yeah, that is what we do on a week-to-week basis. It's just sort of talking to people, explaining to them these issues of class and race and sexism, and helping them, trying to force them to like get past that kind of stuff, like, because people are going to bring stupid ideas in, and trying to weld them together.
A quick question, just to clarify. This is just because I'm trying to understand, I guess, the certain tactics. So are people, as far as your party, are you mainly just working within the unions, or are certain particular people actually working the jobs and then organizing the workers through that? Like, do you have people going in, working the job, and then bringing the workers together? Or is it more like, oh, we just have unions, and so only people that are interested in, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to get an idea of like what all this kind of looks like. So,
theoretically, we could have communists working in places trying to organize it, but that would be a secret, and I wouldn't say it online.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, you're absolutely fine. You're absolutely fine to ask. And so we do talk about secret ideas like that all the time, but we also go out and try to, like, we talk to people who are friends friends of friends of friends of friends, and we try and encourage them to come over. And so a lot of the workers that we've made connections with are, it's like 6 degrees of separation, or maybe we saw somebody somebody saw us handing out a flyer, that kind of a thing. Because ultimately, we have to have a full court press and just get out there and get as many of these workers active and beat this apathy thing. People are tired of what's going on, and one of the things, when the organization started, like I said, we know a lot of people in a lot of different organizations, and there is a fear, I think, among really well-meaning communists that the working class will reject us because we're too radical. And what we found is that after the fall of the Soviet Union, anti-communist propaganda dropped with it. And the younger generation doesn't know as much of the nonsense that older generations were taught. And also they're just not predisposed to believe it because of how bad things are. And so, situations like Luigi is a good example of how he became a folk hero. Like, that's not something that capitalists would have expected to happen, but it just shows that people are kind of primed. And so when we talk to workers, we'll say, like, okay, our organization is called Multinational Communist Party. Sometimes we'll be like, does that concern you? And they'll just be like, no, or like, I don't know that much about it. I don't know that much about communism. That's not really my, area of expertise, whatever. And then sometimes people will be concerned, but we'll just talk to them and we'll explain to them what we believe, and we can win them over. And I think that I hope that a lot of other left organizations are willing to kind of like take the risk of being rejected, and go out there, because we were surprised a little bit about how cool people are with what our message is, and giving it to them directly.
Yeah. One question I had was, what do you find is the hardest when you're trying to educate like the working class, or like that worker? Like, what do you find is the hardest part of trying to get them educated when you're trying to organize?
So I don't want to be a difficult interview, but honestly, I find that it's harder to educate a new member of the party than it is to educate a worker. Because most of the members of our party are people who have like gone to political demonstrations, and they know, generally speaking, that the US is this horrible imperialist force. They understand racism and sexism. But again, they're like college graduates or people who would have gone to college, and they don't have as much experience in the working world. But when you sit down with a worker and you talk to them and you say, listen, you made how many hamburgers in an hour? How much money went into the register from those hamburgers? And how much money did you get paid that hour? They get that really quickly. They understand. They're like, wow, okay, yeah, that's a huge, something's happening there. So, and that stuff that comes from Karl Marx, but you can talk to them about it and they're like, yeah, I get that. I think to speak to your question, I think every worker at first has a hard time imagining a large democratic workers' organization where it's not just a union of people who work at this restaurant or that, supermarket, but it's every restaurant and supermarket and, every business in a whole neighborhood. And they all work together, and they're all like, every single capitalist in this neighborhood has to listen to what we're saying. None of you can step out of line and mess with any of the workers here, because all of us will come down on you, right? Including boycotts, as you said at the beginning of the interview. So it's a big concept. People do eventually get it, but until we really get there and until people can really experience it, it's a little bit harder to imagine.
So I want to ask you a question and then one more follow up after that. But you talked about the longshoreman strike, and I think there wasn't one since 1977. And one of the points, you said the struggle could range from 4.5 billion to 7.5 billion a week, um, and how it will hit the capitalists. So could you kind of speak to what happened with this strike? What does it mean to our current movement, or what could happen? Like, just pretty much explain how you viewed what happened with the longshoreman strike.
Yeah, so the longshoremen have gone on strike in recent years. They're very short strikes. And essentially, so yeah, October, actually, a 3-day strike of the longshoremen. And they got a 63% wage increase, which was less than what they asked for, I think. But what happens with the modern unions, and it's absolutely important that workers join unions and that radical leftists work in the unions. We don't have the option not to do that because that's where workers are. But the union leadership, and I'm not talking about longshoremen specifically, but in the US generally, is married to the capitalist ruling class. And so what happens is if you push their constituency, which is the workers, too far, they will eventually, even though they know the capitalists don't like it and they don't want to be involved in a strike, they'll do a strike for 2 days, 3 days, a week to kind of show that workers still have the ability to do it. And then they'll have a negotiation. But the whole point of the strike is essentially to not have to go on strike. And people who work as union organizers will tell you that within unions, when they talk to workers about strike, they say, we're trying to get a good contract and, heaven forbid we have to go on strike, but, we need to be ready to do it. And for MCP, we want to go on strike. That's how we get stuff. So in terms of what you're saying, though, in terms of the economic costs, like nothing gets in or out of the country without going through the ports. And so that's why they only need to go on strike for 3 days to get at least a little something. But the unions are not in a place right now that they would want to engage in strikes that would really hurt business, because a few days is not going to really change anything. The numbers that we're talking about are projections, because it's capitalist analysts sort of telling other capitalists, like, okay, just so you know, this is how messy it could get. And so, like, don't push them too far. Like, if the union is going to negotiate with you, don't go crazy, because that's going to cost a lot of us money. And so it ends up being that sort of thing. Similar thing with the railroad strike. And if the workers get too militant, you'll have Republicans and Democrats, whoever's in office, come down and bust that strike the way Joe Biden did.
And then the second one was so last week we had a young brother on who's probably still in the infant stage of developing an argument. But I guess in a way they were trying to argue there was too much political education going on in these left spaces and not enough ideological struggle. But you, in your article, stress for political education and collective mobilization. So maybe if you could, I know you don't know what he was arguing, but maybe even that line, if you can respond to that line from your experience, and then also what it means to engage in political education in a way that push towards collective mobilization.
Yeah, so I can't speak to what the person was talking about, and we're not against struggle on our positions. We've had plenty of debates in MCP about what our position should be on specific issues. But before you can have the conversation about political education and political theory, you have to remind folks that political theory is the experience, the collective experience of all the workers that came before you. So the revolutions of the past and the strikes of the past, all of that fighting and all of that struggle, that was written down and analyzed. And that's what you're getting when you're getting theory. And so when you go out and you mobilize and you go on strike, you are creating the material for new theory. So theory and practice are not completely separate. And I'm sure a lot of your audience knows that I'm sort of cribbing Mao right now, but theory and practice are not separate things, right? It's like ice and water are not exactly separate. They're different, but it's not a separate thing. So we read theory so that we understand the experiences of the past, so we don't have to make the mistakes that other people, so painfully had to learn, right? And then we put that into practice so that we can better understand what we read and what to do next. So it's a cycle, right? It's theory and then practice and then theory. And if you cut off either one of those, it's like cutting off an arm. You can't function as well. But I am sympathetic to when people say that there's too much. I've actually seen organizations where people will say there's too much political education and we don't actually do anything. I've seen organizations where it's like all we ever do is go to demonstrations. We don't actually read or learn anything. And the criticisms are probably correct in both instances. You need both, and it needs to be connected.
I guess I was just curious, thinking about one of the comments you said earlier about when it comes to the people that are actually in your organization that don't have like the working experience because they may be college graduates or may have been people that were supposed to go to college. And I think for me, I kind of relate to that. I mean, I didn't go to college, but certain advantages of life, have me to a place where now I work remote in corporate, and I'm always trying to figure out like, what is my place? Like, in this, like I'm in a political org, obviously, but I'm still trying to figure out like, and sometimes do I need to go back and get like a blue collar job and work with, actual workers. And so I'm just wondering if you have people like that in your organization too, in a sense where like, because I've heard different things from different socialist communists of like, as far as the actual work you're doing in real life, like, can you be an organizer and work this job, or is it better as an organizer to work actually like on the field and in a blue collar position, like which is more productive? So I'm just curious.
So this question comes up all the time, and people in MCP have asked me personally how they feel about it. I want to separate. I want to call out religion for a second. I grew up in a Catholic household, Latin American Catholic household, and I'm no longer a Catholic, so I don't believe in vows of poverty anymore. If what's important is your objective, right? So if you can organize workers by quitting a corporate job and going into a factory or going into a McDonald's, then you should do that. If you can organize workers by working a corporate job and having a stable salary, and then you get off at 5 every day and you have every evening and you have the money to afford a car so you can go and drive to the next state to talk to workers and all that, then you should do that, right? We don't have any kind of moral test for how someone is sort of, how much suffering someone is experiencing in their life. And historically in communist movements, a lot of communist movements wouldn't have gotten where they did without wealthy people, not just from the petty bourgeois, but from the bourgeoisie itself being like, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to start funneling into organizing and into the organization. So, it's not about getting into heaven. Like it's about winning. I think, I don't know if Lenin actually said it, but he's quoted as saying, I'd take money from the devil himself. Ultimately it's about winning. So, if you think that, again, going into the workplace will help you be a better organizer, and then you should do it. But there are some like white collar gigs that allow you a wild amount of free time. I worked a lot of different jobs. I've done service industry work, but I've never written better articles than when I was temping at some office, because I have like 3 hours to just bang something out. And like I said, you have to answer these kind of questions and figure out where you're going and form a strategy. So if you have a job that's comfortable that allows you to organize, I don't think that there's anything wrong with doing that. It's about the objective. But what I'll say is that what none of us can do if we are going to embrace our revolutionary duty is to not do anything, is to not engage with the working class, right? That's the unacceptable course of action, right?
Gotcha. Thank
So
you.
you're watching Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win, episode 14. We're here with Comrade Makasi. And before we let you go, there's a comment. There's a couple questions in the chat. Maybe at some point we can bring you back and talk more about it. But I'll let you answer this question and then part of my question. So why another multinational communist party than joining the existing one? And then after you answer that, please share with us how people can get involved, learn more about your work. I know we have the link in the chat, but what will be a call to action or a way people can connect with you or your org?
So why start another party is a fair question, and we've gotten many times. I will criticize another organization if it's relevant, but I don't start shit on the internet with people for no reason. What I will say is that I've been in other organizations, and several of our members have been in other organizations. And there's like, if you name an organization, there's probably someone in MCP who's been in it, is what I'll say. And what I will say is that I have gone to people in multiple organizations and said, I appreciate our revolutionary line and that we're anti-imperialist and that we're pro-Black. But can we go to where Black people are working and organize them? Because you can't actually have a revolution if you don't organize workers first. And the answer is far too often, that sounds interesting, but right now we have to do X. And that's just not for me. So honestly, the question is, why aren't people doing what we're doing? Why aren't other organizations? Because if there was another organization, and I'm not saying that there are none, there are a lot of activist groups that do go into workplaces and work with people. But in terms of Marxist-Leninist organizations, it's a little bit difficult to find people who are actively engaged in the struggle in the pursuit of a strategy of specifically, and we talk about it in some of our other articles, of collecting as many workers together until you have really, like, in major metropolitan areas, you have huge masses of workers who can shut down a city. Like, that's how a revolution gets started, right? We're very clear about how we think we can build a revolution. And I don't hear that clarity of strategy coming from other organizations. If other folks are doing it, like if there were organizations that I saw that were doing it before MCP formed, I wouldn't have formed MCP. I didn't want to form MCP. It was something that we did because we felt there was a need that wasn't being met. In terms of connecting with us, our website is multinationalcp.org. If you want to organize your workplace, if you want to learn about organizing workplaces, if you think a friend might want to organize a workplace, go to like the forums we have of like, it says organize your workplace. We also have a join form. So if you want to join the organization or just even learn about it, we're pretty good at getting back to people quickly. Sign the join, go into the join form. Yeah, it's right there on the top. So organize your workplace and join. They're getting sent to the same email addresses. There's slightly different information, but you reach out to us and we will get back to you. Regardless of where you are, if you want to organize your workplace, whether we have cadre in your city or not, we'll have phone calls and Zoom calls with you that we can at least give you the basics. But if you're in one of our cities, we'll go and we'll help you flyer. We'll talk to your coworkers one-on-one. We'll meet up with them. We'll do all of that. So all of our stuff is on the website. We have a Twitter and an Instagram, mainly just to push our articles out there. But you can contact us directly through the website.
Yo, we appreciate you, man. You
right,
got to come back. You got to come back a couple more times.
I'd love to.
Yeah. Comrades, y'all got anything before we tap out?
I'm good, thanks.
I'm good. That was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I enjoyed the conversation a lot. I appreciate you having me on.
No. So I think I really, and we're actually studying this. So both of these comrades are in our Atlanta chapter, and we're studying Blueprint for Black Power. But the chapter that everybody avoids is policy formation, and we talk often about how radical organizations can spit their line analysis all day about what they're against, but when it comes to talking about policy that you're actually for and actually building something, the party work, the ground game, people get pretty quiet. So mad love and respect to you and your comrades. And as I said, you're welcome back anytime. So again, thank you, bro.
Thank you.
All right. Peace. So episode 14 down. We had lively anti-African Detroit Ypsi work straight to party work. How y'all feel? What kind of reflections and thoughts y'all have?
I definitely feel like I want to look a little deeper because I saw what is it, Cherie Macha, I always say it wrong, but was saying about the parade. So I'm gonna kind of do a deeper dive. And I have heard the conversation around other parades. And I'm still trying. I gotta look and understand the blackface stuff. I know that there was one in one of those white countries too, where it's like this is our tradition. And so I still just gotta understand a little bit more when it comes to that. It was cool having Ypsi, the Ypsi representative on because I'm always curious. I talk a little bit about Mutulu Shakur in my upcoming show, so it's always cool to hear about how people are combining acupuncture and holistic health with radicalizing people is always dope to hear. Then I'm also inviting a few people that are a little deeper into like the radicalization of mental health and all of that, so definitely gets me excited about those conversations. And this was a dope conversation about this party and how they approach organizing. The article was dope. It was cool to hear I can still keep my job and organize. I've been feeling kind of like I gotta quit my job. And it's not a class thing, y'all. I just was the worst waiter like ever, and it's like kind of the only other thing I can do. And I'm like, dang, if I go back, it's gonna be so bad. So it's cool. I can keep my remote stuff and still, dedicate most of my time to this. So that was dope to hear. Nice relief, nice sigh of relief here. So yeah.
What you guys saying?
No, it was definitely the Zulu parade was. I don't know. When I first looked at it, it was a shock to the system because I literally thought it was white people in blackface, and then I realized it was our people, and I was like, okay. So I definitely need to look up some more information, read on that. And then I think it's awesome Ypsi is doing what they're doing. Definitely holistic. We need to bring that back. I feel like in everything we do, like as somebody who has been in the medical, like circus, like half of my life. So holistic is definitely the way to go. And then also like just talking to him about his article and like organizing and with the working part, like I think I learned a lot. I think I learned a lot about how to connect with people and like maybe learn how to organize more because I'm also in corporate. So, but I'm in IT. So like I have I'm surrounded by a bunch of nerds. So So like I feel like when he said that it was easier to organize the workers than like his cadre, I was like, that makes sense to me. Because like talking to my peers, it's almost like talking to somebody who thinks they know everything, but they really don't. So
that's dope. So I think I too, because I was caught off guard from I didn't know what the hell going on. I definitely We'll even talk to Chidi. Shout out to Barter and Bill Think Tank, who they are a part of. So I definitely know we'll talk more about that. And then, yeah, shout out to Ipsy, Shane, and all the crew, Alexa. I just think my time in Detroit was good. Like, Yusef is on here, but we did go up there and we did see some of the work they was doing. And Detroit is an interesting place, very similar to Atlanta. And then once we got to the conversation, again, shout out Mikael for sharing that, who's also a part of the Multinational Communist Party. These are conversations we've been having ever since we left Cuba. Actually, ever since we was in Cuba together. And we've been back, it's almost a year now. And I think, again, like Comrade Makasi was saying, like the conversation around class in left spaces is not really had. Like we normally like leave the analysis on the buffer. I mean, not only buffer class, but the elite capitalist class. We kind of critique the buffer class, but then the class within our situation in a terrain in which we're organizing and having resources or the lack thereof. Yeah, those conversations are not seriously happening, and I do think we tend to like drop the ball on that. So I do think there's a lot of clips. I might be asking Cherie to clip up a bunch of clips from because I think he dropped a lot of drools that will move around. So
yeah. And then I thought this new clip thing. I made a few clips because I'm starting to share more on my page too. I got to show you, Geechee. It's fire, like the way it edits and stuff. But yeah, I was going to comment on something they said in the chat. That somebody said I look like FK Twigs. I guess that's a cop. She's a little weird, but I guess we got Orlando Brown cousin, we got FK Twigs, and we got who oh, you don't know who FK Twigs is? She's like this indie artist that's been around for a long time. But she's always been like a popular indie. I don't know, like one of her songs. She be doing
nothing like no damn FK.
I know, but people say that. I don't know if it's the hairstyle. People will say FK Twigs. They just say whoever, is yellow with a big head or whatever. But it's like, it's cool. It's cool. I prefer when people say Lisa Bonet, even though I don't think I really like her either. But for that.
You bringing up all type of people. We don't know none of the people. Generation gap. This is FK Twigs, whoever the hell that is.
I don't even know who that is.
Never heard.
But yeah, I was just commenting on that. So you got
Talia. Her name Talia. Her mama name is Talia. I'm gonna call her Talia. All right. Anyway, y'all, what y'all got coming up this weekend? I know we got some PE potlucks and shit in Atlanta, but what y'all got going on this weekend?
Yeah, everything is about that because I'm gonna be performing my solo show. I wrote a solo show 8 years ago. Now I've written an updated version that's more politicized, and I'm gonna be sharing it with the crew this Saturday. I'm doing a table read, so it's gonna be a messy read because I'm still editing like right now. So bear with me, but I'm really excited to hear everybody's feedback. So everything, my weekend is really about preparing for that and making sure I don't embarrass myself. So
I won't be joining y'all. I'm sorry, but I'll be with a veterans group. We're doing a summit, and we're actually getting together to organize, to spread out. So it's all the veterans in the Southeast region. So we're all getting together in Tennessee, camping around the fire and learning how to organize and bring what we learned back to our organizations. So yeah.
Dope shit. I can't wait to hear about that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I'll be also kind of getting the layout of our Resist and Build conference set up, the walking tour we have from May the 2nd through 5th. A bunch of comrades from different parts of the country will be in town, so trying to lay all the tracks down for that. So that will be good. Again, we do have the PE potluck coming in for the for chapter people of C&B Atlanta. So I'm trying to go get the resources and the foods and all the shit for that. So I'll be doing meetings all week, and then I'll try to relax sometime on Saturday. So, but yeah, man, looking forward to building with y'all again. Thank you for filling in. I want everybody to welcome Zane, who's on a roster, who did a great job. Mess around to take my job, I'll give it to you. You can have it.
I got you.
But yeah, I really appreciate you popping through on short notice, coming prepared, speaking like a true revolutionary from Georgia.
Of course, try.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, yo, we're gonna see y'all next week, same time, same place. Who knows who you're gonna see? We don't know. Somebody know. All right, peace, y'all.
Que renacen con la aurora, quemando sin más demora, gobernantes indolentes, son consignas suficientes, jugadas de la inclemencia, con fusiles o presencia, la firmeza y la alegría, contra toda tiranía, siendo luz de la conciencia. Compañero, compañero, escuche mi sentimiento y que viaje con el viento.